Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to January 20th, 2014 Professional Development on your new math materials, Math Expressions. I'd like to begin by first saying this is my first time recording, so please bear with any idiosyncrasies or mishaps or just plain old goofiness. Second of all, I would like to thank all the administrators for giving me this time. I exchanged some building time for the district-wide math professional development because we would like to give you as much time with the new materials as possible, so thank you. I want to begin by showing you a brief board presentation that Jane Cowan and Laura Martin and myself presented December of 2013, and just to give you an idea of what the Board of Education got to see and what they approved. First of all, we gave them a little history of the pilot and review team that has been going on, the 20 teachers who came together to look at 11 different programs and chose 2 to pilot. They chose investigations to pilot for 1 semester and then switched over to everyday math for the 2nd semester. And while they were doing that, they were meeting and talking about the pros and cons of each of those programs. You can see that investigations had great representations for concepts. It was very hands-on and it was broken into smaller units. However, they felt like there was very little paper pencil work to go along with the pictorial representations, and it seemed to move very slowly and it did not cycle. On the other hand, everyday math had great games to go along with and reinforce concepts. It had great online piece, complete with games and student text, and it had that continued spiral. However, it moved very quickly and jumped from one topic to another rapidly. That's the spiraling they were talking about. Those struggling students became even more lost as it hopped from geometry to algebra, back to geometry, and it was very difficult for students to follow along. So at the end of a year, they came back together and decided that neither one of those would be the best choice, that maybe they should think about another one. So these same 20 teachers chose 1 more to pilot for the 1st semester of this school year. And Math Expressions has been used by other districts in Michigan, and Waterford has been using it for several years. They do not have the updated version, but they have been using it with great success, and of course many others in Michigan as well. So again, we came back together as a team and discussed the pros and cons, and as you can see, there were lots of pros here and 1 con. Multiple strategies were introduced to solve problems. Word problems were daily embedded in this program. Differentiation instruction is very easy in this program. There's lots of options for your strugglers, your on-level, and your challenge learners. Common Core standards are in-depth and great online component complete with parent explanations. The 1 con was that not many games to reinforce learning, but as we're getting into it, we're seeing the games are there. They're also in digital format. So we chose Math Expressions after a year and a half of field testing materials, and we want to give you a brief overview of all the highlights that this program offers. And sit back for a second and just watch. You're going to see a lot of components, but we're not going to use every single one of them right away. We're going to slowly ease into this. So I want to talk first about all the differentiation possibilities. You had many materials delivered to your classroom already, and I know there were some things that were missing and some things are back ordered. We're getting all that straightened out. But one thing I know for sure is that I think everybody got these cards that are called differentiation cards, and every single lesson that you teach will have more opportunities for students who need an intervention, who are on level, or who need a challenge. And this is all based on the specific focus of the lesson. So if you are working with a group of students and you see that they are struggling, you have another opportunity to give them an activity around that same topic While you're working with them, the kids who are on level can work on another activity, and those who need a challenge are here. It also gives you a writing prompt on this page. It also gives you the online component directly related to the lesson, directly related to their level of learning. So this component is great because the differentiation is at your fingertips. Those students who are struggling, this program provides a RTI intervention workbooks that go along with it. So for example, your tier 1, those are students who are on grade level, are still struggling a little bit, they need a little help. There's some more content for that lesson in this workbook. But those who are beyond that tier 1, moving into more of the special needs children, there's a tier 2 and a tier 3 lesson that goes along with it as well. This has been a great use for LSS when they pull students, and that way they can be working on the same lesson but at the student's level while they're pulled out. So great addition to this program. It also gives you that connection to the online component. So students who are in tier 1, they're on grade level, they just need that little extra help. There's the online component that matches directly with that lesson. The same with the tier 2 and tier 3. Another thing this program will do is it really gets your classroom to be more of a Math Talk community. You'll see in every lesson that Math Talk that's highlighted, it gives you questions to ask your students, questions for students to ask students, and it just develops that sense making that as we communicate about mathematics and help that student understand. It's also the questions that the Math Talk will bring out, or I should say the discussion that Math Talk will bring out. I have a list of questions that I will give every teacher, and it kind of would be like a bookmark, and so it'll always be at your fingertips to know what questions to ask, to dig deeper into whether a student is struggling, what questions to ask to get them to see, or a student who needs a challenge, what questions can I ask them to move their thinking even more forward. So this is going to be the first page of every lesson, and I just wanted to highlight a few things on this page that you'll see. First of all, the lesson focus. So here is that overarching goal of the entire lesson. This is great if you need to write that on your board every day, if you need to put that in your lesson plans, you need to post it on your website or put it in your newsletter for parents, it's right there for you. It also gives you, of course, those common core correlations, and what I love about this is how it actually leads with the mathematical practices. Because if we lead with the math practices, we're going to do a great job at the math content. So it'll always give you what math practices you're working on, and then also the content as well. And you'll see within the lessons, they highlight what actual math practice you're doing according to that activity. The iTools that go along with this, there will be lots of times where a lesson has an iTool or an interactive whiteboard lesson. And as soon as our classrooms are equipped with all of these items, we will have quick access to these iTools and be able to manipulate things on the board to help students gain understanding. It also tells you all your digital resources. So if the lesson has an interactive whiteboard lesson, you'll have this icon there to let you know that you have that lesson available. It also tells you that it has these online game components that you can assign students, again, later on. We're not going to worry about that part yet, but we just know that it's there. So once you turn over that first page of the lesson, you'll see this is how the teacher's manual plays out. It kind of works in Activity 1, Activity 2, Activity 3. And some teachers are using this as a workshop model. Some teachers are following it the way it says. It'll give you hints like this is a small group activity, but if you would rather do it as a whole group, you could do it as a whole group. If you want to use that as a station in Math Workshop, you can use it as a station in Math Workshop. There's going to be lots of opportunities to tailor this to your needs in your classroom. So like I said before, when it leads with the practices, here it's telling you exactly what practices this activity is working on. And this happens to be diagnosing an error. Then this one is working on that math talk. So like I had mentioned before, here's how we're going to get kids to talk and communicate about their math. It also gives you kids who are struggling. Here are some differentiation ideas for special needs children. Then on the last couple pages of the lesson, it will tell you there's an opportunity for formative assessment. And this isn't in every lesson. It's probably every big idea will have a formative question. Now, this is something you can ask students that to determine whether they've gained that big idea or not. And based on their response to this question is a great way to use these differentiation cards. Again, these are those cards that you can easily pull and say, those kids who were struggling, if they didn't understand my formative assessment, I'm going to work with them on this activity. These are my kids who are on level, and this is for my kids who need a challenge based on that content of that lesson and that big idea. It also gives you a writing prompt that you can do with each level of student. Again, some teachers have found that this writing prompt could be used as a math workshop. This writing prompt can be used as a journal in the morning. This writing prompt, however you want to use any parts of this component, is up to you. Then it tells you which Soar to Success Mega Math or Destination Math game would be good for students who are struggling, on level, or need a challenge. And these can be grouped by students, and it'll show up when they log on that that's exactly what game or lesson they're going to go play on the computer. Then on the last page of the lesson, you have your homework and your remembering pages. So this looked like, I pulled this from a unit that was working on halves and fourths, taking any shape and showing what half looks like, what fourths looks like. That was the focus of the lesson. But then there's this remembering page, and this is where your spiral review comes in. Every lesson has a homework and a remembering page. We did receive these as a consumable for 1 year, so they're already there for us. However, we won't be using those until next year. Any of them that we want to use now, we can print, and I can show you where those are. But for now, we have every lesson has a homework and a spiral review page. So I wanted to show you now what everything is online. And basically everything you saw, you have access to online, anywhere, anytime. Through Think Central, and we'll work on getting passwords and user IDs, but I just wanted to show you that your Teacher's Edition will appear online just like it would on a Kindle or an iBook. You can open it up to the lesson and bookmark it so that next time you open it up, it's going to go right to that bookmark. You also have all of your iTools and interactive whiteboard lessons here. So for example, this is in Unit 3, Lesson 4. If there's an interactive whiteboard lesson, you just click on this link and it pulls that exact lesson up for you, so you're not going and searching for it. It is a direct link. Another cool feature is this little sticky note option. Let's say you teach this unit or you teach this lesson and you realized, you know what, this probably would have gone better if I did this as whole group instead of small group, or any reflection that you may have on this lesson, you can put on this sticky note and drag it to wherever it is you want to have that note. And it's basically your electronic sticky note. So when I come back to this page the following year and I read that note, I know how to adjust my lesson plans. And that's a really cool feature here as we reflect on our lessons. Of course, anything can be printed. You can print any teacher page that you want. You can click on these student pages and print them from home, from anywhere. Everything here is printable. Another thing on Think Central that you can access are everything you received in print to your classrooms. And then there's a couple extra things here as well. One thing is the PARCC teacher and student test prep booklets. Now, Michigan, the state of Michigan did not choose to go with PARCC. We chose Smarter Balanced. However, we have access to both PARCC and Smarter Balanced resources. So you might, on some of the quarterly assessments, I pulled some PARCC questions because they're divided by standards, they're written in a multiple choice format, so I did take some from there. There is access to all of your iTools and your whiteboard lessons. You will have access to all of your RTI books, teacher's editions and student editions. Of course, your TE, your big spiral, volume 1 and 2, and then you have access to the student activity book as well. And here's the brand new thing. They just added this in January. This is the Smarter Balanced Assessment Student and Teachers Edition practice book. And this offers a lot of resources for us. It has all the possible question choices kids will be taking on this Smarter Balanced, and gives you a middle of the year, an end of the year, a beginning of the year assessment. It gives you some performance tasks and rubrics. So I feel this is going to be a great resource for us to use as our students practice taking a test like Smarter Balanced. Unfortunately, it is paper pencil and not the interactive, but at least gives them a chance to experience the different types of questions they'll be asked to answer. This also has professional development videos built right into your grade level. So for example, this is grade 3. In all the math backgrounds, they have a video that goes along with the math background for that unit. So if you're reading the math background and you don't really understand what it's telling you in words, you can watch a professional development video on what it's demonstrating. So that's a really great feature as well. You also received a flash drive. And on this flash drive, there's a couple things that aren't that accessible online, but they print better on the flash drive. So your assessment guide, all the assessments are on the flash drive. Anything on that challenge easel, it's just that tiny little flip easel that you can put at a table, that is on the flash drive as well. All of those differentiation instruction cards are on the flash drive. And you can click on them in your online teacher manual, but they don't print well. So here they will print like a nice 8.5 by 11. All of your homework and remembering pages are here on your flash drive. So this is the resource we'll use for the second semester starting now. If you wanted to use any homework and remembering pages, we'll just get it off of the flash drive. All of your RTI pages are also on this, and your teacher resource book. And I believe that's your e-glossary. I wanted to also let you know sort of the direct response we had from the author. Fourth grade teacher at Pine Tree, Francie. Hi, I'm waving at you. Francie had a question about one of the lessons in a fourth grade unit that involved multiplying a 2-digit number by a 2-digit number. And she was questioning why the shortcut method avoided putting the 0 in the ones place as a placeholder, and why the book didn't refer it as the traditional algorithm for students. So there's a very good question, and what I did is I forwarded this to the representative that we've been working with, who then forwarded that on to the author of the book, Dr. Fuson. And lo and behold, we actually got a response from Dr. Fuson on Francie's specific question. And what she managed to say is that she agreed with Francie's reasoning and had already decided to add the ones in the zeros place when multiplying by tens because it's better to show students a better version of this method. I also changed the name of the shortcut method to be more mathematical. These methods are now called one-row product methods. The book does not call any of the methods the traditional algorithm because there's no such thing, and so on and so on and so on. So I just wanted to share that when you do question one of the methods in this series, please let me know. We will forward it on and most likely get a response back. So here comes the numbers. That night we presented to the board was the first time that they saw what it was going to cost to update our math program. So as you can see, we will get the student activity books for the next 6 years. We will get 1 year of homework and remembering, and those were already delivered to your classroom, but we're not going to use them till next year. And we decided 1 year because we think it would be better to print what we need instead, but that's a decision we can worry about later. You'll notice some manipulative kits are missing here. You'll see why on the next slide. Professional development, I did want to go forward with this purchase because they will come on March 14th, Pi Day, and they will deliver grade level specific content training. And so because I have a difficult time being in 6 different places at one time, I thought that I would get some help with that. And then of course there's getting all the product here. And to be honest, this is where the board sort of questioned the shipping and handling. It is a lot of money, but remember this is for 6 years of delivering the consumable. It also was bargained from 10% down to 7%. The Board of Education still asked that we go back and look at a different way or how to cut that cost a little bit more. And the following day I spoke again with the representative. I got that down to 5% and we managed to save another $10,000. So this bottom line is actually not accurate. It should be $10,000 less, but I wanted to give you an idea of what the Board of Education was approving and what we were asking for. Then there's of course the pro bono, the free stuff. You can see that the total of the free stuff is not that far off from the total of what we purchased. This is just how publishers work, and we managed to get some things free, which might always be free, but it looks good in the meantime. So I did want to mention the whiteboards that all grades will receive. Some are on back order, I understand that. But there's 5 per student, and the reason for that is that they do wear and tear, and so when one starts to, you can't erase on it anymore, or it's got bent, you will have plenty to replace with. I also wanted to share the continued professional development plan so far. Administration will be going through an e-learning course just like you. There'll be some training that I'll do at some leadership meetings and some walkthroughs in April. Teachers, we have an e-learning course coming at the end of January, and there'll be more details on that. Partial use of new materials, that's where we're beginning now. Visit math expressions classrooms in Troy or possibly Waterford. I have to set a few dates up for that, but I would like to go and visit some classrooms who are already using the program. Intense grade level training will begin in March when presenters will come in. And then continued grade level training support February through June, and that's where I can come into classrooms, grade level meetings. Those are yet to be determined. And then of course in August I already have some plan on the books for when we return to school, how to get the classroom started in September with the new program. And then there's the parent piece. Parents will need an overview and a math night yet to be determined, and how we will run that. And then of course in the fall there'll be some more math nights as well. Parents. Our parents will have access to just about everything, which is a great resource. They'll have access to all the student activity book pages. They can print them, and they also have a text-to-speech option on them as well. They will have access to homework and remembering pages that they can print. They will have access to all the online games, Mega Math, Sword of Success, and Destination Math. Remember, these are leveled by intervention, on level, and challenge. They will have access to the e-glossary, the unit overview, the research and math background, and the family letters. So basically what what they won't have access to is just the actual lesson and then some of the assessment guides and things like that. But they will have a lot that they can look at. So with that, that's the 2014 Operating Systems Update for Mathematics, and that K-5 is about 43% of Lake Orion Community Schools. That same evening, we also presented the middle school update as well, which then we move forward with almost 2/3 of the Lake Orion Community Schools update. And if you remember, high school adopted their new program last year, second semester. So as of right now, 100% of our Lake Orion Community Schools students are up to date on math materials. Woohoo! I kind of think this is how you're feeling right now, a little bit overloaded, maybe you got some steam coming out of your ears, a bit overwhelmed. I thought that was kind of funny. So I just want to remind you that stay calm, breathe in. We're going to take this slow. We're going to start with one lesson at a time. Change is a process and not an event. So we're going to begin that process today. And it does begin with a lot of reading and understanding the math background. So for the rest of the time we're together today, we're going to be doing a bunch of reading. We're going to be starting lesson planning on how we're going to make this look in our classroom. And I'm going to get you started on that right away. So with you, you have your Volume 2. And according to the curriculum maps from Quarter 1 and Quarter 2, what I have set up is your Quarter 3 will begin with Volume 2 and the lessons that we'll be looking at today. So if you're a week behind, it's okay. If you're 2 weeks behind, it's okay. We did have Snowpalooza. So don't worry, when you finish that Quarter 2 curriculum map, the Quarter 3 will pick up right here in Volume 2. So what I'd like you to do is first read the progressions for the Common Core State Standards. Every unit will start with these progressions. So I've listed the page numbers here for each grade level. Go ahead and pause the video and maybe have a discussion on how this might be helpful with your grade level or with the team you're sitting with at your table. Now what I'd like you to look at is the big ideas. So this is how the unit will flow, and if you notice, you might notice that each big idea has a few lessons underneath it, and the curriculum maps for Q1 and Q2, those are the chunks that the curriculum map is broken up into. So you might notice that big idea 1 is 4 or 5 lessons. That's the chunk that says 2 weeks and all of the content in it for that big idea. So that's how, if you think about sort of how these big ideas are on a curriculum map, that's how they were done for Q1 and Q2. So go ahead, take a quick look at the flow of the unit. Again, here are the page numbers for each grade level, and pause when needed. Now we're going to get into the research and the math background for the unit you're looking at right now. So what Dr. Fuson has done is for every unit, she has written a little bit about why the methods are presented the way they are. So like I said, this has been researched through a university and not a publisher, and so she has a lot of research behind why she chose the lessons and the methods that she did. So take a quick glance at the Putting Research into Practice, and I have a list of page numbers here. Please pause. Okay, Now this section is going to take a little bit longer because it's a little bit larger. I mentioned earlier in the presentation that at the beginning of every lesson, the math practices are listed first, because if we lead with those math practices, we're going to get to the math content. And so at the beginning of the unit, in the math background section, there is the content broken up into the different math practices. So this is going to take a little bit longer to read. There's a few more pages, but what I'd like you to do is read the examples from the unit, and you'll see that little like blue box on each page. You'll also see down here at the bottom, if there's a math practice that isn't listed, it's because it is throughout the unit, so she'll give some information there. But I would like you to read those math practices. It'll tell you even what lesson and what activity that this will be in. Please pause as necessary. Diagnosing errors. This is a very important skill that all Smarter Balanced assessments will have at least one of. And that is, children at all levels need to be able to look at a math problem and diagnose what went wrong and how to fix it. So in every unit, there's always a Puzzle Penguin. And Puzzle Penguin always gets something wrong. So I've given you a page here to read of what Puzzle Penguin does in that particular unit. And please take a moment, read about Puzzle Penguin and his error and what we're expecting kids to do to diagnose that error. This, you may pause. Okay, all that pre-reading, and we're not at the lesson yet. Getting ready to teach Unit X, that's our variable, the math background just for lesson 1. So this section of math background is going to give you the math background that you would need for every lesson in this unit, and I want to narrow our focus down to just what math background we would need for the first lesson. So I've listed some page numbers here that each grade level needs to read. You'll notice that some grade levels have one page and then it jumps over to another page, and then some grade levels just have one. It's because that content is carried over into another lesson as well. So if you could read these pages and pause. Now we're getting to lesson 1. The first page of every lesson, like you saw in the beginning of the presentation, has a lot of information on it. You saw it had the lesson focus. It had possibly vocabulary that students will be introduced to. It had the Common Core and the math practices. Remember, it led with the math practices. It gave you a quick practice option. It gave you the materials you needed for that lesson. It did also give you the differentiated instruction, the homework and spiral. These were all pages and cards, the cards that you can use, and the homework and remembering pages you can use. It gives you an anytime problem and your digital resources. So take a look at lesson 1. I want you to read through each activity, go all the way through to that last page that shows you the homework and remembering, and this is the time we're going to get to plan. So read through your first lesson, and how do you see this playing out in your classroom? Feel free to talk through this with others. Feel free to talk to any pilot teachers that are in the room with you now. I will be circulating throughout all the classrooms today to have any more discussion that you need to have, and enjoy. Thank you so much for listening to this first recording as I try to podcast this instead of be in 6 different places. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Again, I'm sorry that some materials are still on their way or we're missing, but we are working on that. And I hope you're as excited as I am to get our hands into this program.